We've got a little camper here, and the inside needs to be reupholstered. So I will show you how to do that. This cushion here, we covered this up, and it is, see, garbage how they fall apart. These, we're gonna redo all this stuff here. This is gonna be redone to match over here on top of the door. For those of you that don't know, I am the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt. Let's get started. We will start with these cushions. Oof, that is bad, isn't it? I need to measure this foam. I can discard this. This one's much smaller and a lot less nasty. We'll use this one for the example of how to recover the cushion. 40, 13, 4. Everything inside of a camper is cheap crap. The foam is no exception. This is very soft, junky foam. This is very stiff, nice foam. This foam is 4 inches tall. This is only 3. I'll show you why I chose only 3 inches on this one shortly. This fabric will be for both the top and the bottom cushion, and I want them to line up, so I'm going to put a center line in here right now. I'm just using chalk to mark this fabric. You can use other things. I made the fabric wider than it needs to be because I'm going to sew pleats in it. When you sew pleats in, the way I'm going to do it is right on the top. That'll take 1/8 of an inch away from the fabric every pleat. The width shouldn't matter, but I always do put a little extra fabric and go back and trim it later. When I make pleats, I try to make it easy on myself, and I just get something like this. This is 3 inches wide, and make the pleats. Always start from the center. Your projects will always line up, top, bottom, everywhere, if you just start from the center. And the next one, see, I stay on this side of the line like that. When you do this, remember, fabric's not always perfect, so kind of look at it, and if you have to make a very small adjustment, that's, to me, okay. I'd rather have straight lines that look straight anyways than not. I just wanted to show you that all I did was mark this center line, and then I cut these two pieces apart. I could have drawn all the pleats just down the whole thing before I cut it, but I'd rather work with the smaller pieces of material, and as you can see, they're lined up perfectly. I am making the cushions reversible, so one side will be vinyl. Remember, I said I would explain why I'm only using 3 inches of foam, and this is why. Because I'm sewing pleats, I'm using 1/2 of an inch of sew foam. So 1/2 on both sides, that'll be a total of 4 inches of foam. This is the sew foam backing I was talking about. When I sew it here, it's got like a fabric on this side, and it holds the thread, so it's not just foam here. See, that's a fabric, and it pinches the foam in between it, and you get a nice crisp pleat. Any spray gun will do, preferably one with a bigger tip. I think this one has a 1.6 tip in it. This is the glue I used, and typically this is what an upholstery shop will use. But because this fabric is light and you can kind of see through it a little bit, I'm going to use this glue, which is just a clear fabric glue. Now I'll just allow these to sit overnight and dry real good. You can see how the line fits with my foot. That's how I'll make a straight line. One thing I've found is that if I hold the fabric in the very back like this and move it slightly either direction I need to go, kind of makes the line straighter. You seem to have more control to make a straighter line. I drew a line around the perimeter of this fabric. It's the same exact size now, will be, after I sew it and cut it to match the foam. This will help lock these threads in on the pleats right here, and also it gives me another chance just to square everything up if it got off a little bit after I sewed it. Quick way to get the chalk out of the fabric. Now with all these pieces sewn up and trimmed, it's time to work on the boxing. A lot of upholstery projects would require a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around that would be bigger than the foam. But in this case, we're not doing that. We're going to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but it's actually going to come in on the foam like that, so that when the cushion's all sewed together, it'll be nice and tight and it won't be baggy. If this was just fabric without sew foam, it would be much easier, because you would just make this top piece the same exact size as the cushion, and the side, this is 3 inches, you would make it 4, because you would allow a 1/2 inch top and bottom. But because we have sew foam, it's a little more complicated. What I had to do was make a test piece just to see how it would fit here, because I wanted to make sure I would get it the right size. And that fits nicely. What this ends up being right here is 4.5 inches. The boxing width will be 4.5 inches, and when it's sewn, it'll be 3.5 inches. And that'll keep still a snug fit, but it allows for the sew foam that I have on both sides. I'm going to measure around the outside perimeter here. Remember, we have a zipper, so this side doesn't necessarily have to be measured. 78 inches, I'm leaving a little extra to trim up. Now this might be a crazy thing to do, but what I'm doing is backing up the vinyl actually with a piece of vinyl. I'd rather use cloth, but I don't have any fabric right now, extra material, and I had this extra vinyl. The reason I'm doing this is because I just don't like the feel of a single layer of vinyl on the sides, and this makes it stronger, and it just makes me feel better to do it this way. Most vinyl will stretch one way or another way, and when you do this, you back it up, it makes it real strong, and it does not stretch. Time to prepare for the zippers. This piece right here is 2 3/4, this is 2 3/4. You get a total of 5.5, so you have an extra inch of material, and when the zipper's on, it'll be 4.5 inches wide, and that will match the boxing. Zippers are cheap, but I am cheaper, so I'm going to reuse the zippers. I mark a line 1 inch up on the fabric, and then I use this tape. This is double-sided tape made for fabric, and I put it right on the line. Then I fold my fabric up to the line. This is what it'll look like when it's done. This is a zipper foot. This is what I'll use to sew that zipper on. The zippers are ready to go, and I did back them too with extra material. Now time to sew the boxing onto this cushion top. Again, I marked the center of this boxing, and I'll match it to the center of the cushion. This is a magnet that I use, and that'll be my guide to get a 1/2 inch seam allowance. On your corners, before you get all the way to them, fold this up. Measure in about a 1/2 inch, well, not about, right on a 1/2 inch. Right there, whoop. And then mark this 1/2 inch. Snip about 7/16 in. Pull on up to this. Needle down, foot up. Flip your bottom fabric, hold your top, do a nice quick turn there, like so. Pull all your fabric back out of the way is the way I like to do it. Foot down. And that's as far as I'm going to sew in because of my zipper, so I lock the thread. Locking the thread, you just go back and forth a little bit. The way I'm doing the zipper is I'm folding this over and I'm following this line right here. I want to make sure it's straight when you cut it. I'll do the same on both sides. Then I'll take the zipper, which is longer. This sheet is longer than I need it, and I will sew it to here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, of course, and then we'll sew it to the cushion. To finish this up, the zipper is longer, as I said. This is where I want it to be. You measure from this in 1 inch on your zipper and cut it. That'll give you a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So make sure everything's nice and straight and where you want it to land, and then make that cut. You can do it now or when you're all done, but you need to go around and snip these corners off. You want to leave a little bit of fabric there, of course. Now for the top, you want to line up the center again, and then I will go around and staple it in place. When you get to these corners, you want to kind of pinch them up straight like they're gonna go, to make sure that you staple them in the exact right spot. All stapled up, now I'll just sew it. I'm just putting a little piece of plastic here on the top section where I'm going to stuff it in the cushion there, so that it slips into these corners. You need to use the thinnest plastic you can get. If it's not thin, it'll crackle when you sit on it. I guess there's a way to vacuum foam. I don't know if you could vacuum this stiff of foam. I guess you could, I don't know, but this will be a little bit of a show for you, but I'll get it in there. Last step is to steam it if you need to. If it has wrinkles, put a little steam to it. What that does is it makes it hot. And when it gets hot, it expands. And when it cools off, it'll contract, but it'll contract more than it expanded. That's typically what happens when you heat something up. Metal, fabric. If you have a stubborn wrinkle, take a really cold, wet rag and wipe on it immediately after you steam it. That's it for the cushion. If you can do one cushion, you can do 1,000 cushions. One thing you need to keep in mind is which side does your pattern go on the zipper side, because if you flip these around on this particular kind of pattern, it won't match. If it's this way, see, it's matching. If you flip it around and put the zipper on the wrong side, it no longer matches. If you're really new to this, I suggest you get a pattern without any kind of lines in it or anything like that. Get a pattern that when you sew it, you can't tell if you have something a little bit crooked. You won't be able to see it that way. See how it looks? Looks pretty good now. We have to make sure they fit where they belong, and they should fit snug, because you don't want this just falling out all the time. We have a nice fit. All the lines are lining up good. So I already removed this, but we'll start repairing these. This particular one fits right here on the side. First we need to get this old stuff off, but you can see from the factory they don't spend a whole lot of time putting this stuff together. They make staple removers. I don't have one. I have to use a screwdriver, pick, or pliers. I won't wrap it much better, but look at the way they do this. This, to me, I missed a staple, is pretty crappy. I'm going to remove this old foam because I'm going to put new foam on there. And I have 1/4 inch sew foam. It's more dense than this. It'll look a little bit better. I poked a screwdriver through the back side to find the holes. Now I'm taking this hole punch and just gonna cut that foam, because when you put a screw in it, if it catches the sew foam, it'll wad it all up. I am not good at this part at all, but I'll do my best. I really need to learn how to do this better. I don't want to fold it over like they had it at the factory because I don't like all that bulk here. I like for this piece to fit nice and flat against the wood. Now for the good news. This is the side you will see, and it looks good. Even the corners, what you're going to be able to see, will look nice. So I need to keep practicing, but it's not a total loss. I'm not showing you the back side of these boards. Time to make some buttons. First have to cut this fabric into circles with this die. That's 5 layers. These are Dura snap buttons, they're called. The taper, the wider part of the taper goes towards the top in your button maker. I'm sure not everybody has a button maker, so if you have an upholstery shop around, they may have one and help you out with it. One thing I was doing before is I was pressing it too hard. You don't have to. Just squeeze it down nice and snug, and there's your button, and this will snap onto all those screws that I put in there. These are the 2 pieces here, a screw, and this piece right here is what I screwed all the pieces down with. Now the button will just snap on that part. Maybe you can do all this, but you don't have a button maker. Go to your upholstery shop, bring them your fabric, and maybe they'll make these buttons for you. There's the piece above the door, the threshold, driver's side seat, passenger seat, trim around the bed, and I really do like the way the buttons look. I think that's nice looking, which it was like that factory. And if you're curious how it looks when the cushions are reversed, there it is. I would have loved to have all the curtains up, the blinds up, the bedding done, and had a big reveal here at the end, but I'm just simply out of time. Tell you what I'll do, I'll make a short here in the near future and you guys can see it totally complete. Now all of you scurry off and go fix your campers up. Thanks for watching. I am the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt, at your service.